Welcome to the Music Lounge. I love saying welcome to the Music Lounge because
And
I actually just finished Welcome to Wrexham, and I feel like this is an ode to that series. Also, when we came up with the name, it was like a welcome to the jungle, a
yeah,
nostalgia phrase, but it means more to me now that I just completed Welcome to Wrexham. So,
Well,
welcome to the
it's
Music Lounge.
it is also that I think Music Lounge was taken, but we wanted to incorporate that name
musically, yeah,
into what we were talking about because the Music Lounge at MTV was the hub, was the focus of everything that was happening sort of in the music business at that time, whether it was the
absolutely.
TRL studio or the Music Lounge, everything was going on. But before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind people to rate, review, share, and like this podcast wherever you're watching or listening or on social media. It helps us reach a broader audience and continue to do the show. And I would like to introduce our special guest today, Nolan Baynes, who was formerly head of music marketing at MTV and is currently at 300 Studios. Welcome, Nolan.
Hey guys, first of
Welcome,
all,
welcome.
the name is brilliant, and I think Perry, you nailed it, right? Like the Music Lounge actually was like the Pentagon of the music industry. Every major artist, every major executive, every breaking artist, managers, you congregated there, and you had to pitch your product there, and it was the center of, to me, the center of the world for the music industry if you wanted to scale your artists.
It is, and I also do not think that that exists anymore. I mean, you've got your
Mm,
Spotify's and your Apple Musics and your Amazons and your YouTubes, but they're all, for lack of a better word, equal. Like there is no
yeah.
one that everybody says this is the place I have to go to when I want to break an artist, when I want to introduce new music, when I want to premiere a video, any of those things.
And it was big. I also believe that there were a lot of heavy business strategy discussions happening there, right? Like I remember seeing Jay-Z, attending a Jay-Z Rockefeller meeting in there, a Missy Elliott meeting with Sylvia Rhone and talking about Paris Hilton, right? Like when she was trying to get into the music industry. Fat Joe, I remember having a sit down talking through, with all the different departments. And so for people that don't know what it was like, it was as if you walked into a place where you've already been proven in the music industry, but now it's time to get more money. It's time to blow your project up to the next level. And so you have all these smart people that control the MTV platform that would now sit down and figure out strategically, how do we take you from point A to point B? And it was, as a student of the music industry, it was compelling. It was grad school, basically.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and it also was like, as you were saying earlier, MTV was, and we've said this before, the mothership, but it had all of these other sort of extensions. It had
Mm-hmm.
MTV.com, it had MTV Music Marketing, it had, jams, it had hits, it had MTV2. It was sort of pervasive throughout everything happening in music. And that's why everybody wanted to come there because there were so many different things that you could do with your artist if you wanted to play ball with MTV.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say when we look at the spectrum of artists that we touched when we were there, you had your breaking artists, people that just had a buzz, to superstars, and they all fit in one building. And these departments with these incredible people could speak any language. They could speak emerging realities to superstar status, right? Like it was a great place to learn about the music industry, and I think what it also did for us, it helped us to figure out how to pivot. For me, especially being in those meetings, you would hear high level conversations happening, but then you would hear how these superstar artists would sort of pivot and move around to kind of reinvent themselves. And that really became very clear to me early that that was necessary in the music industry, right?
So I think also that time in the music industry was the first time we were seeing the emergence of branding and brand
Mm,
partnerships too.
yep,
Because,
yep,
and I think MTV drove a lot of that
yeah,
also,
yeah.
because of what we were able to offer.
Yeah, I think also there was this very interesting philosophy that we had, right? At most places, marketing was a necessary cost, right? At MTV, marketing was a revenue generator. So when we created a marketing event or a marketing strategy, to launch something, for example, we had a very aggressive ad sales department that could see the value in what we were doing. Once we were able to command an audience and create something different and beautiful out of it, it was sellable. So, things like Campus Invasion, which a lot of people kind of took for granted, it was like a campus tour that we did every year. That project, on a yearly basis, probably generated about 12 to 15 million in ad sales
Wow.
money, right? Like that was a pretty, like when you talk about how many hours of programming went on air, that was sponsorable. And then you had brands. Our ad sales department again was incredible. They had brands trying to get to that MTV audience. And on that tour, I think we would do maybe 20 campus colleges. We had a full-blown trucks and buses with talent and the whole nine yards traveling around the country. And we would generate not only a lot of branding awareness and excitement for our shows and so forth, but it was a lot of money attached to that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't hear of bigger companies doing that sort of, I want to say one-on-one outreach. I mean, obviously there's thousands of students, but sort of being out there to sort of be live and be interacting with the audience that they want to have brand loyalty with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I think
It
on
was
the
it's
necessary.
programming
amazing.
side too, it was so effortless for us to work with our neighboring teams like music
Yeah.
marketing in creating programming because we were doing that every day anyway.
Yeah.
So now to come and say, I've got Pepsi, they want to be involved in this emerging artist campaign. What do you have to incorporate them? We not only touch the programming shows and the hours that we had at our disposal, but we had our hands in the some of the promo inventory and how we can use our inventory to benefit you without taking hours away from shows and series. And we're like, we can put a 10-second bumper at the beginning of this music block or work with commercial breaks. We were very creative on how to manipulate programming to still have what we needed to have in those hours, but to really work and support you guys. So
Yeah.
perhaps do a campus invasion that was an MTV show on some spots on
Yep.
MTV programming
Yep.
and
Yep.
MTV2 where it made sense. So you're not just selling MTVU on air, but across the whole board.
Yeah, it was an ecosystem. And I think for the managers that were smart enough to understand how MTV worked and where the value was, they understood that we had levels to it. And so, I remember sitting in the first meeting in the music lounge where we were talking about India Ari, and everybody was excited about her, and she was brand new. And we ended up putting her on the first tour that we designed for MTV2. MTV2 was launching. They wanted a different look, a different appearance. They wanted to be a separate thing. And we sat down with David Cohen, who was the general manager of MTV2 at the time. It was myself. I think Joe Armenia was part of that conversation. And we kind of designed this thing that we pitched, and it was for MTV. It was kind of like, you want to do a women of hip hop and soul tour. It didn't necessarily fit in MTV, but for MTV2, which was going to be this new channel that was supposed to differentiate itself. I remember David saying, if it works, it's going to be great. If it doesn't, oh well, right? And we tried it. Like, they were very much not risk averse, right? And I remember after that tour, we ended up having so many iconic female artists on that tour. I think Vibe magazine was a big sponsor of ours. We had a bunch of corporate sponsors, but Missy was on that tour. Tweet. It was just a slew. The young lady from Black Eyed Peas, I think, Kim. Forgot her
I
name.
was going to say Fergie
No, no, no. The
before her. Yeah.
original, yeah, Kim. There were a few artists, man, and it was literally helped us to understand that there were other areas that we weren't taking advantage of, e.g., touring. And so that led to us developing a whole touring strategy and getting support from the mothership.
And as you said, it's the smart managers and the smart label reps who understood that, there's more to just trying to get your video played a couple of times a day on
Yeah.
MTV. Like, you could work up to that. Maybe you would build more of a awareness internally. But we have all these other things that we can offer to
Absolutely.
you. Take advantage of it, because
Absolutely.
it's still all MTV at the end of the day.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I learned this term later in my career, but this crawl, walk, run approach to building an artist is so important. And in these times, it is difficult to get what we had at MTV, which was a crawl, walk, run platform, right?
Mhm.
And so I don't know of many platforms these days. Either, you know, you're just a discovery platform, or you're like top of the tops, right? Like there's
Right.
no in between. Like I just don't know, you know, actively which platform can kind of help me take my artist from, you know, concept all the way up to superstar.
I'm excited to hear about how it all started, right, Perry?
Yes. So now that we've gotten every question that we wanted to ask answered. No, I'm kidding. So
That was a great 10-minute intro.
no, but it was. We've really never done that before. So thank you. I
I
mean,
We're just
appreciate
so
it.
excited to
that
just
was
get
that was like a
in the
huge hook
conversation.
to the audience to get them to keep listening. So thank you. But every journey has a starting point. So
Absolutely.
sort of walk us through how you got your foot in the door and how you ended up moving up the ladder at MTV, and sort of what your 10-year run was like.
Yeah, bribery. Bribed a lot of people. Well, you know, my journey to MTV was a non-traditional one, right? I did not do an internship. I did not know anybody to hook me up. It was none of that. I actually used to work at a record company. I was going to school at night and working in the day, you know, just regular New York City hustle, right? I didn't go away to college. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was like, this is where I want to be. Music is what I want to do. And I used to work at a record company and had a huge breakout hit at the time, right? There was a song called Tour by an artist named Capleton, which was a reggae artist, but it was a hip hop remix. And coincidentally, Little John, who we ended up working with at MTV, you know, a lot, Little John was the producer of that song. And this was early days. The song blew up.
Okay.
We made a shitload of money. The artist got signed to Def Jam and Russell Simmons and Kevin Liles and all those guys, and we were doing amazing. And we had some money issues, and I started realizing that I needed to grow my career. A friend of mine worked at MTV and asked me if I would PA for a weekend show that they were working on. And I had no idea what a PA was. And I was like, well, what do you do if you're a PA? He was like, everything. You just be on set. And I was excited because MTV was such a big brand. I try to explain to some of the young people I talk to now, MTV was the Google or the YouTube music or the, you're right, of the day. Like if you were in the music industry, you wanted to be there. And so I was like,
we're old because I want to say we're in our prime, but this was, when was this? Like the late 90s?
This was 95, 96,
Yeah.
maybe around that time.
So, and to your point, MTV was the TikTok, was the
Yes.
YouTube, and was the Spotify of its
Of the day.
time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an amazing time. So just the curiosity alone, I had just quit my record company job because I was a kid and didn't understand how to settle a dispute. So I quit. And that same, like if I quit on a Thursday, that Saturday, my boy calls me up. He was like, I need you on set. So I go, and it is like Disneyland. You got cameras everywhere. There's teams hanging lights. It was the Grind workout video. I don't know if you guys remember this at all.
Wow.
It was a series of workout videos at Sony Studios. And we made a lot of money off those videos, by the way.
Sure.
And so I ended up being a PA, but because I didn't know what I didn't know, I was talking to everybody. And I ended up talking to the director, and we started talking about music, and he was telling me how expensive it was to get these big songs. And I was like, well, you just need to go to independent labels and you probably could cut better deals. And then he was like, who is this kid talking crazy to me? And they invited me to come back the next day. And then when they were loading out, the woman that ran the whole thing, the production manager, I think her name was Patrice Murphy. Patrice kind of saw my hustle because I was genuinely interested. Like if you needed to move lights, hey, you got me. I'm moving lights and I'm asking questions, right? And so anyway, so long story short, that was my first PA gig. She ended up hiring me a bunch. I loved it. I was actually not working at the time. So that was my main gig. It paid, I remember, like $150 a day. That was big money. For those who don't, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if you got a long-term project that was like 2 weeks, a long-term shoot, oh, that was great. So I ended up doing that, and she got ahead to hire an internal PA, and I turned it down. I said, no, I'm good. because I was going to be a mogul and start my own company and I didn't need anybody. You know, my girlfriend at the time, who ended up being my wife, was like, are you a nutcase? Like, what are you talking about? Like, you want to be in the music industry? MTV offers you a job and you say no? And I was like, holy shit. So I go back and I'm like, hey, I changed my mind. I was kidding. And she was like, oh, it's gone. So
Oh man.
I struggled for another couple of months just working on different shows, which was great because I learned I understood how MTV was structured, the different teams, you know, the different channels. And I became sort of a star in the PA world. And then she came back to me and said, hey, I happen to have another position. And I jumped in that shit so fast. It would have been for free. I would have done it.
Yeah.
And that led me to the off-channel department. And off-channel did all the production management for everything that was not on air. So marketing, press, you know, all the guys upstairs, the digital guys, like all of that, home videos, all that stuff. So it gave me, at the time, a well-rounded idea of how the business works. Not just how my department worked, but just how the business of MTV as a big company worked. And then MTV hit that struggle. You guys remember when we were getting knocked for not playing music videos and are we a real music company? And again, these incredible people that were smart at pivoting and all of that. Van Toffel, I think, led this, and Judy McGrath, who I believe were like the real geniuses of the whole thing. They
Agreed.
essentially said, listen, we got to be where music is. And if music is not just living on air, if it's living in record stores, if it's living on tour, on college campuses, that's where we need to be. And we did it, man. Like Lisa Braun, who was heading up marketing at the time, she was getting ready to leave. I used to work with them on the production management side. And so the hustle was real all the time, right? First one's in, last one's out. And I would, Mom, you're actually in my thing. Come.
Hey, Mom.
Say hi to the guys. Say hi to the guys. This is Andrew and this is Perry. We used to work at MTV together and we're doing a podcast right now.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
I think that's the first mom we've had appear on the show.
Hey, when you're in the Baynes household, all goes, you know. So yeah, so we ended up they ended up saying they wanted to form a music marketing department, and the idea was to bridge the gap between what you guys were doing on air, all the cool stuff you guys were doing. How do we take that stuff, create off-air extensions, but then how do we put MTV's brand in places where the fans were? And I guess they recognized like digital was going to be a play at that point. They realized that the world was changing. And so we had a good run, man. Like I came on board, like my first project was putting together the TRL tour, which was our biggest brand at the time, TRL. And, you know, we had to figure it out. There was no blueprint. You know, and it was me in a room with Matthew Knowles, the scariest human being in the music industry at the time, right? Beyonce's dad, 6'4", like, you know, he's like, what are we doing? And I'm like, oh, sir. And we did it. We pulled it off. He became a mentor of mine, which I loved. And we ended up launching this TRL tour, which was amazing, generated a shitload of money. But we set a model for how MTV should be in the live music space. And that was the first that led to a whole bunch of other stuff.
I think MTV was known for being first, right?
Yeah.
We had no blueprint on anything we did because we were the pioneers.
Absolutely.
There was no one before us.
Yeah. And we would joke in our brainstorming meetings that if you didn't have an idea that was similar to like, let's go to the moon and do the VMAs, then they would laugh you out the room. If you came with regular stuff, people were like, what? Like,
yeah.
You had to come with like, hey, I heard there's a private island. We should like rent that and put like Destiny's Child and a whole bunch of artists on there. And then we'll just have 2 grand prize winners that can just spend the weekend with them. And people would not laugh. People would be like, yeah, how do we do that? Yeah, it was an incredible place to work. I never found that spirit again, except for maybe 300. 300 has a similar spirit because I want to say Kevin Liles and those guys are from that school as well. So it permeated, but every other place I went, man, did not have that spirit of we're going to figure it out. We're going to blow this up and come up with something brand new.
Lior might have put something in the DNA of the company too.
Oh yeah, Lior Cohen, man. I remember, by the way, not to digress too far, but I remember we were doing the Campus Invasion tour, and every year labels would sort of like pitch us their lineups, right? Because everybody wanted their artists to be on that tour. And that one year we had pretty solid, you know, ideas about who we wanted. But Lior found out that we were pitching, that labels were pitching. And he calls us up and he says, I want to hold a lunch meeting or something like that. And it ended up like Def Jam came in and they set up lunch and we had an internal performance, right? Just for music marketing. Tina Exaros at the time ran the whole thing. he got on his knees in front of Tina and was like, Tina, if you let Def Jam get this, we will not only make money. I'm paraphrasing, right? He did the Leor thing, man. Like, there's no way she could have said no, because one, the
Right, right,
music
right.
was hot, right? What he was pitching made sense,
He
right?
had the artist, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the type of, I think, visionaries and like music men and women that we are used to dealing with, that we came from. They cared, like they actually like it was their life, and
Well,
now
listen,
I don't know if it exists.
yeah, well, I mean, and that's a reason Lior is still huge in the
Yes.
music business and is running YouTube Music and Google Music. I mean, this is a guy who is legendary, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, absolutely,
He cared.
absolutely.
Yeah. The
You
money
guys
would
had
come.
Tuma, right? You guys had Tuma on this?
We
Yeah.
did,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I was gonna say Tuma reminded me a lot. He reminds me a lot about how much it takes to kind of do something that requires such not only a heavy lift and resources and brain power, but vision. And I remember him talking to me about going over there and working with Lior and so forth, right? Like, and I had a similar experience working with Kevin Liles, right? Because Kevin is from the Lior school, and Kevin is, it's just like, we're gonna try everything, we're gonna break some shit, be strong enough to take criticism, be strong enough to course correct. But if you don't do that, we're not making money, so you have to do that,
And
Well, I
that's the other,
believe
yeah.
if you have a mistake, it's a win if you learn from it.
Yeah, it's learning forward, right?
So
It's
it's a
failing forward.
positive, yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also MTV, and we've said this multiple times, and Andrew, I think, even said it earlier, was that it wasn't just one department that was sort of on board with one of these things. Like, if someone had a good idea in music marketing, music got on board with it,
Absolutely.
programming got on board with it, production got on
Yeah.
board with it, events got on board with it, digital got on board with it. It was the way that everything worked there
Yeah.
is that you needed buy-in, but there wasn't a lot of, like, if it was a great idea, there wasn't the pushback. Oh, we
Yeah.
can't do that. We can't make that happen. That's not going to work.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. It was no, let's do
Let's
this.
get
This
it.
sounds
Yeah.
exciting. This sounds amazing. Yeah.
And there's also this idea that when you're at MTV, you're not in the real world, right? We're in this bubble of just like creatives that are just incredible, that want to try all this stuff. And when I got into the real world, like that was the first time I worked with people who did exactly what Perry described, right? Like, we don't do it like that around here, or that idea is too big, we just don't have the ability to pull that off. Or it was incredible to me. It was such a culture shock that I had to like understand that in different places you advocate for yourself and your ideas differently. Right.
Right.
But at
Right.
MTV, it was not hard work. It was like, hey, ad sales, I have this idea I want to do around blah, 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 blah. What do you think about it? Good. Then I'll call music and talent. Hey, do you guys have artists that would be interested in doing this, 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 and this? And then they'll be like, yeah, like we're working with this. Like, what do you have? Like, it was such a collaborative space, right? And everybody wanted the next hot shit. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think more media companies could probably learn from that. Somebody has to write a book about that type of strategy.
A lot of these places launch, whether it's a digital music company or a video company or something, and everyone thought, they had to reinvent the wheel. Like, they had to bring in, like, oh, well, we don't want those old school people. We don't want somebody who's already done this before. We want a tech person, or we want this person or that person. And it's like, the reason that this stuff worked previously is because you had good people doing it. They were great ideas, and there was an audience for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah,
so
Still an audience for it.
there still is an audience for it.
Yeah.
I wish somebody were as, I don't want to say forward thinking, but as creative, maybe.
Yeah.
Creativity does make you money.
That's the currency, baby. That's the currency,
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
When we look back at just how to logistically put on one of these events, was there any kind of challenging or memorable times?
Yeah, I mean, there were tons, right? Like, we were learning as we go, and I think we were used to putting our own shows on, right? Like, we did, obviously the VMAs and all these big gigantic shows, but touring is a whole nother world, right? So what I had to do really fast, I came from production management, so I understood how to put together shows, right? But a tour from a financial perspective and from a logistical perspective, when you're building, breaking down, building, breaking down, building, and you're traveling across the country, created its own different challenges. And so we had to learn that world. We had to learn who the players were in that world. Who are the tour managers, right? Who are the tour directors? What's the bus company that never shows up late, right? Who are the stagehands that are used to being on the road? And that was some fun times, because not only were we learning, but there was some really incredible tours that was happening, right? So we did two things. One, we would build tours, but then two, we would sponsor tours. Like I remember we sponsored Green Day, a Green Day tour. Incredible. We didn't have to do any work. We just had to market, and then we had to sell the programming team on just, hey, if we got this tour, we would have to deliver X amount of hours of programming. And of course, Green Day, everybody's like, let's go. And so it got done. I remember putting together the idea for the $2 bill concert series, right?
We've talked a lot about $2 bill.
Yeah.
And we heard everyone at the beginning of those conversations was like, you got to get Nolan on. He's the guy to talk about it.
That idea came out of us not wanting to invest totally in tours, because tours were expensive to invest in. And we were like, what if we just did a series? We do what we do, but if it works well the first time, we'll do it a second time, a third time, whatever. And so I had the general concept of doing a concert series. And then it was going to be for MTV2 again, because MTV2 wanted to sort of differentiate themselves at that time. And David Cohen, I remember, was like, if we could do it the second of every month, that would be a great launch. And we were like, cool. And then Alex Coletti, who was just, brilliant in terms of live recordings and all this stuff. I think he was the one that came up with the name. And then and then we were all kind of like together, like putting it together. And I'm like, I remember traveling, man. I traveled like that year, just going to every stop. It was every month that we were doing a show. So the marketing team had to we had to book, the bookers had to book it. You guys had to book talent for us, right? We had to get the production team in that market set up. We had to negotiate with the artists where they wanted to actually do it. And the idea was really dope, because you could see a big artist in a small venue. And you could be so we launched with Nas, which was very interesting. We launched with Nas in Buffalo, and we caused all kinds of mayhem. There were people lined up for tickets, fights breaking out, riots breaking out. Then the police came and shut it down. And the night of, people are still trying to get tickets. And I remember panicking, man, like hitting up our legal team, like, yo, something could happen and whatever. And then so we get Tina on the phone, I believe, and they were like, where's the problem? And I'm like, yo, it's chaotic. Shit is going crazy. They were like, that's what we want, right? Once nobody gets hurt, like, we want that. And Nas was the first one who kicked it off. Coincidentally, we never shot that one. That was just a marketing play.
Really?
Yeah, we had I believe Graham and his team in press, they had a tape. They got a tape from the local news department, the news station, and we showed it in a recap meeting. And then I don't know if I want to give Alex, and maybe it was David and Alex, that said this should be on TV. And then we ended up, for that whole year, the second of every month, it was Music Soul Child. It was.
So that one wasn't shot with the thought of it ending up.
It was just an activation idea, just to let people know that MTV2 existed and they could get it on their cable channel. But it turned out to be amazing. And then I want to say year 2, after we did the 12th, year 2, we got ad sales, just went out there and got crazy with it. There were all these sponsors coming in. And so we decided to make it bigger. So we strayed away from the you can see your artist close up in a small venue thing into bigger venues. Right. And it was only 4, so we did one every quarter. But we came out the gate, I think, with like Coldplay at the Beacon Theater or something. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. Big Radiohead.
Yeah, Radiohead. No, Radiohead was Beacon Theater, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, but we had such fun with
Beastie
that.
Beastie
Boys in Vegas. I remember that one.
Yep.
Incredible stuff, man.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, like Andrew said, we've talked about $2 bill so much with so many different people, and not every idea is a great idea, but if you try something and it works, to continue doing it.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone who would do this today. I don't know if an artist who would do it. I don't know if a company who would do it. And I think we thought it might have been buttoned up when we were there, but it was so much looser.
Yeah,
back
absolutely.
then. Part of it, I guess, is social media. You don't need to be as present with your fans, maybe, as you used to be.
I think it's different. I think you are right. You don't have to physically be present, but the fan base today, they're spoiled. They're used to access. There is a level of entitlement as a fan, and I have it too. You have it too. If somebody sends me a link to an artist right now and says, "Hey, you got to hear this woman or guy, whatever," I am Googling. I'm looking for every bit of information. I want to know more. Like, where are they from? And they have a crazy accent. You want to know all the things. And so I think we had an advantage back in the day because there was this level of control that we had. And with something like the $2 bill or even the VMAs, you control the reveal. There were things that people look forward to learning because there was no other place to learn it.
Right.
So now it has to change. Now it's you have to approach it in a different way.
That's a great term. I want to remember that. Control the reveal.
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, if you're fans of like Taylor Swift or, me and Oasis, you're part of a tour just from living on social media.
Yes, absolutely.
And fans are now releasing live videos of certain tracks. If you're passionate about that artist, you feel the energy through your screen. But back then, you're right, we could control how it came out. But now with social media, it's like you don't have to you can save money. You don't have to feel like you need to go and travel and spend God amount of money.
Yeah, but I think it's going to change. I mean, this is just me. I think
I
it's
don't
going to
necessarily like that because I was really not trying to look because I had tickets. So it almost gave too much away.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. I look at it now and I like even talking to managers and certain artists now, everybody's trying to lean back into the exclusivity part now. Right? Like only certain people can be part of, my team that has access to this special performance that we're going to do, or only if you're on my mailing list can you get access to certain songs.
Exactly.
Like that exclusivity thing is always going to be a thing, but more than ever now that concept has to be reimagined because that's the only way to make your experience special. Like I saw the other day where Sade is going back on tour.
Really?
Sade, yeah, I'm hoping it's not an AI prank or anything, but literally I thought about that and I'm like, think about how exclusive her brand has been. How she could literally just say, I'm going to be at 2nd Street and Broadway right now, and 100,000 people will probably show up just to see her. Like, that doesn't exist anymore. How do you create that? Now you're seeing artists go from overexposed to hitting a certain level of success, and then they close off. You can't see Kendrick the way you used to see him anymore. Taylor Swift, like now she's getting married and all this stuff, so you're seeing that outside of the music space. But for the most part, once you've scaled, then you start to like scale down a little bit in terms of access.
You're even seeing it with like a Chapel Roan too. I mean, her rise was so meteoric. She has put the brakes on things herself, I believe, a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, she's touring and she's performing and she's releasing new music, but I just don't feel like it is her accessibility is as big as it was when she first started doing everything.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
It's also the pace in which people are engaged, and the attention span is just getting shorter and shorter. And so, like when we're working with new artists now, like I have this artist I told you about, Kai DeVere. She lives in Trinidad, but she's from London, and she has the idea that, oh my God, I have to show everything. Like I have to let them see all sides of me, and I don't like doing that. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. Not yet anyway. What we're going to do is we're going to make sure, and the team is adamant about this, we're going to make sure the music speaks for you first, and then literally have your brand earn the ability to have people want to learn more about you. And so that's just a stance. There's a lot of people that takes a different stance, but we're hoping
them wanting more.
Yeah. But it's also if you fall in love with my music first, right? This is basic marketing. If you fall in love with my product, chances are I'm going to get you to stick around to learn a little bit more because the product is holding you there. It's not like, here's smoke and mirrors, and then you come in and then the product is like, eh. You know what I mean? Then chances are you'll be like, all right, I'm good. But if I can get you to really appreciate the music, and I literally learned this from years in the industry, but I saw Kevin do it very well with the artists that they have on 300. Gunna's fans are going to be Gunna's fans, right? Young Thug's fans are Young Thug fans. Like, and it's not because Gunna wore the latest Gucci on the red carpet. right? It's because they believe in the music first, and then everything else followed.
At MTV,
Mhm.
did you ever see that happen firsthand, the power of a live event transform an artist's career? And the way you've just talked about it, that has affected you and how you see artist development happening today?
Yeah, that's actually a very good question. I've always been in the Caribbean music space, right? I'm from the Caribbean, so obviously I'm a little biased about it. But when I got to MTV, and MTV was very focused on, I would say, Middle America. Let's just use that as sort of how we describe the demo. It's very pop. And so this idea of segmented marketing was still hard to kind of infiltrate MTV with. And later on, we addressed it with the digital channels, and then you had specialty channels and things like that. Then you had .com, and so you had a place for everybody to be. But in the earlies, that did not happen. Caribbean music was this thing for me that I wanted to try to champion, but I didn't understand how the programming department functioned. I didn't understand the nuances of, like, it was about audience. It was about how many viewers can I get. And to me, I'm like, well, wait, there's like hundreds of thousands of people following these artists. Why wouldn't MTV play them? I didn't understand the idea of, like, it's a different audience. And in order for you to educate the audience on the niche music that you're working on, it takes a lot of time and energy and effort. And so the education was real very fast. And so what we ended up doing was, I ended up like spending a lot of time like making sure the Caribbean knew that I was at MTV. And if there was anything close to it that I could champion internally, I would. But I was using my position there to educate the stakeholders in the Caribbean community on how to get their music to that level. And so I can't remember the year, it might have been like 2000 or something. Atlantic did this deal with VP Records, which is one of the biggest Caribbean labels. And it was a great thing for Caribbean music because they had artists that we felt were capable of capturing the attention of mainstream. And so Sean Paul was the first artist that they were working. And that's the first time I saw it in action, getting an MTV look, and then your star just goes crazy. So when they decided to work Sean Paul, he was a buzzing urban artist. He was blown up on the dance hall reggae side, but hip hop and the mainstream urban community was embracing him now, right? The songs were catchy, dance moves, the whole thing. And so what we did was, I don't know if you guys remember, we used to do these internal concerts on 24 in the conference room. We used to lift up the garage doors, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I actually spent a bit of time introing those to the company.
Yeah, those were like, now that I look back on it, I'm like, what other company is doing that? Giving people a chance.
Yeah,
exactly.
You want to get the whole company rolled up.
Yeah.
And
so let's
wanted
say
to
that
support these artists.
that space probably held about maybe, I don't know, 50, 40 people, right? Because it was like a conference room, and the Sean Paul thing attracted about 200 people.
Yeah, you would have people up the stairwell.
Yeah, exactly.
The staircase.
It was so bananas. Somebody was knocking, because in dancehall music, when you hear a hot record, you just bang the wall. Right? You hit the wall. It's like a clapping. And so somebody banged the window in the conference room, and it cracked. So then this was before Sean Paul could come on. Like, the DJ was just playing, everybody's going crazy. We had other opening artists, and the security came up and was like, nope, we have to shut this down, because if that window cracks, people are gonna get sucked out. And we were like, wait, what? So I was like, we can't, like, this first, for me, I cared about this, right? I needed this opportunity. Tom Calderon and his team, Amy and those guys, were literally going to come to see Sean perform. And I remember we sort of conspired with Craig Haldman and all the guys at Atlantic. I'm like, I love this artist. They have to see him. I'll do whatever I can. So for me, it's bigger than just a project that we're doing.
Needs to happen.
And so I spoke to security, got them to hold off. We put tape on the window to hold it off. And he was like, right after Sean goes off, everybody's out of here. We were like, no problem. So we rushed it. Sean came on, and he did maybe about 20 minutes, bro. After that, Tom saw the fervor. He saw people that don't normally attend these things that was just going crazy over him. They booked Sean on spring break. And after that, that's when it's just, he was already bubbling, but that was the rocket that really took him to the next level. And crazy story, the thing was, the guy that broke the window was Little X. I don't know if you know who the director.
Yeah.
So he felt so bad. He was like, oh my God, I'll pay for it. We were like, bro, we have insurance. It's cool. But yeah, that was probably the time period that I saw sort of the power firsthand, right? Like we saw it all the time with like just different artists, winning, but they all had big record companies behind them and incredible teams or whatever. But for a small genre of music at the time to get that level of push through Sean Paul was incredible.
And how many artists followed Sean Paul
A
with
few.
now
Yeah.
being accepted into
Yeah,
the mainstream?
absolutely.
And then you start having collaborations and the featured artists,
Yes,
and that
absolutely.
makes it more acceptable. And yeah,
Yeah, I had this moment. I worked at a different company, a streaming company, and I remember being in a big brainstorm meeting, right? And this is like maybe it's like 2015 or 16, and because we're on the music scene and we're paying attention, we go the next thing up. So I'm pitching to this in this meeting, and I'm like, "Yo, we need to really embrace Afrobeats. There's a lot going on there. It's a global sound. It's going to be crazy. There's all these artists coming up." They laughed at me because the whole meeting was about country music and how country was going to have this big thing. But it was almost like two things couldn't be true at the same time. I'm like,
Right.
well,
Right.
yes, country music is going to be huge. Like we see it, right? We see the charts. But if we're going to claim something, we should invest here. And I think I've never experienced a conversation like that at MTV ever. Even when the numbers didn't match up, it was always the encouragement to go get me the proof and come back.
Right. And getting back to you being a fervent supporter of Sean Paul, as somebody in the music business who loves discovering new artists, when you love an artist and you can make other people love that artist and see them rise, there's no better feeling in the world to me. I feel a big part of why I do this, because if I feel like I can share my excitement, my joy, my love of this artist with other people, and then get it bigger and bigger and bigger, it is the best feeling in the world.
Oh my
And
God,
that's,
absolutely.
yeah,
yeah.
I think what we learned early, and I was lucky to be around people that were music lovers. On any given team at MTV, you will find a mixture of people that just love different things. But at the end of the day, they were just passionate about music, about the creation of it. If they weren't artists themselves, if they weren't writing and producing and doing their own thing on the side, you had just teams of people that understood it. As I make my way through these companies now, I find a lot of people love the culture of music celebrity, but don't necessarily love the craft or haven't
right,
been like taught the importance of the craft, right? For us, we understood like MTV, the brand was built on music, but we understood the power of the brand. That's why the offices looked the way it did, right? That's why when we did the Christmas party, it was blown out because the brand dictated everything. And so when you start thinking about how companies are ran now and how executives view the music and all of that, they don't view it the same way. It's not the love for the craft or the art. It is how much money it makes, the celebrity factor of it, the reach and the
And what can it do
influence.
for
Yes.
the company by having
Yes.
this artist involved?
Yeah.
And the other thing about MTV was I worked at .com. We covered every genre. I knew nothing about hip hop. I was not a hip hop fan. I was not a hip hop listener. But if somebody else at the company who knew hip hop and told me this is the person you need to pay attention to, I absolutely did it because I valued what other people who have better experience and a better hold on that genre of music. I was like, I'm not going to pretend that I know as much as this person. I'm going to listen to them. And if they tell me you need to do this, I will do it. And I think that's also how the company worked a bit
Yeah.
too.
It was the
Yeah.
diversity of ideas. Like it was just and diversity of approaches. I think we value that. Like we knew in our group that there were the rock people. So anytime like a rock artist was on deck, we knew who was leading that, right? And who was helping us to understand it. Same for hip hop, same for Latin music. Like Nancy Ortiz was our Latin expert, right? Like anytime we had to do something with Latin music, Nancy could kind of explain the nuances to us so we didn't make a fool of ourselves, right? So we could sort of present this properly to the fan base that actually cared about it. And it may sound very small to people that are listening that have never worked where we have worked or been in the industry the way we've been, but it is such an important thing. It's the reason why fans can see an artist that's not authentic.
I think also We were all storytellers working with a TV platform that we've said it at the beginning of this conversation. That was really the only outlet for fans to learn about music. We were so creative in our storytelling, in our documentaries and our reality shows that we put that into our music as well. And we needed to tell the story about an artist to make an audience fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And I think now when you look back at the way that we were exposed to this industry, when you look at what you're doing now, working with film and documentaries, you're really involved in the storytelling aspect of how you can make fans and communities and new fans fall in love with this subgenre, this artist, and you might not be a fan of this particular music, but by the time you've watched this piece of art, this content, you just have so much more
Yeah, it is the
respect.
it's a great way to position it, because it is really about the hearts and minds and the human connectivity of all of this, right? It's the reason why we do it, right? Like at MTV, technically, if you looked at it on the surface, all we were doing was working for a cable network, right? Like we weren't saving lives, we weren't doing any of that shit. But when you dig deeper, what we were doing is ushering in this notion of storytelling, of music, of this product that touches people's hearts and minds and souls and motivate people and inspire people in a way that we can't even describe. And so when you look at it that way, you understand that there was a responsibility as well. When you're that big and when you have so much influence, there was a responsibility. And I think one of the things that we appreciated as we got older, when we were young, it was just exciting and great. But as we got older, I started watching some of the things that we produced. Like I remember doing the $2 bill with Kanye West in LA. And it was right after he made the comment about George Bush doesn't care about black people. And they were really harassing him. Like any show that he was at, you had the fire marshal come in to check it out and all this stuff. And they did that to us. Like we saw it. Like we had never had a fire marshal show up for any of our shows. Fire marshal shows up, they're inspecting, they're doing all this nonsense. And I remember having this brief exchange with him where I was like, are you concerned at all that this could harm your career? And he said something to the effect of like, harm my career means nothing if I don't have a moment to speak truth, basically, right? So he was like, I don't regret that. He was like, they're going to do what they have to do, but this is what we do as artists, basically. And I was like, man. And at that point, it really started hitting me, right? Like, remember when we were doing all the voting initiatives, right? And you start seeing how a platform like ours could really tap into people outside of entertainment. You start realizing like, yo, this music really is the doorway to all of this shit. Social change, it's political change, the way we see each other, the way we see the world. But there's definitely it's definitely more. There's more to it. And to your point, Andrew, the storytelling part is where it all starts.
Talking about content, but MTV, you were responsible for making on-channel brands off-channel. Today, with platforms like TikTok and YouTube, they're the new channels.
Yep.
How was the strategy back then, turning digital content into real-world experiences and, storytelling content? How has that evolved from MTV to your new role today?
So it's flipped, right? Like it's flipped. So back in the day, we could start something on MTV and then bring it off channel and have people kind of enjoy it, right? Because they would have been exposed to the concept and the idea of it already. I think it's flipped now, right? Now it's because your entry point is much lower. Your entry point is on the phone now, right? So I could introduce something on the phone and build it, crawl, walk, run approach again. I build it out on a digital platform and a social media platform. My phone is streaming live and you could see on the radar. Even shows like huge, massive platforms like Colors and all of that started from a digital space. Now, if I'm to be convinced that TV is still the ultimate platform for reaching a mass scale audience, I have crazy examples of properties that I could go do a deal with, right? To bring them to right? Because they've already proven their point. They've established an audience. And I see it now, like more than ever. We launched this thing called 300U, which was just literally a performance thing during COVID, where artists would just go up and you use your phone because nobody had real cameramen or anything, right? Use your phone, you record yourself in the bathroom playing a guitar, singing, whatever, and we would upload it. Kevin would do a little intro to it. And we were doing that to just really show the 300 stable of artists that because the world has stopped, you can't stop. Your art is too important. You have to keep going. And so that evolved and evolved and evolved. And then, we start seeing a whole lot of other like people doing the same concept. So the idea is that there are so many concepts incubated on social media and on digital platforms that could easily be taken, repackaged for TV or a larger scale thing. So it's working. The engineering is opposite now. It's no longer big to small. It's small to big now.
Do you think, though, that because there are so many platforms today, that everything is so diversified that something that is, and when I say niche, it still has a big audience, it's just on a certain platform. Do you think that that can translate to television and driving a bigger viewer number that you're going to get than on a digital platform or on your phone?
So I think there's two things. I think the days of there is one place that you go for all the answers, that's gone. Like that's completely gone. So now when you see there's shows that there are digital platforms and shows on digital platforms that are doing more numbers than a broadcasting, right? First of all, you have to think about who's going to TV and at what time they're going to TV. So that mechanism has completely changed in terms of who TV is serving. Because we are no longer dealing with appointment TV, TV is not the only option. Now there's just other ways in which we can get our content and get the things that we love and do all those things. So I believe personally, I think the days of TV, and nobody's going to jump up and say, oh my God, he's a genius at saying this, but the days of TV monopolizing people's imagination is gone. But what TV still has a huge ability to do is push, to me, live programming. As it relates to the music, to me, if I can say I have, let's say Versus, let's use Versus, the thing that happened with during COVID where artists were challenging each other's back and forth, I would say Timbaland and Swiss Beats, right? They own it, right? So that gave us the idea of how you could capture the attention and minds of people just around the world by using music, right? Now imagine if they can now TVify that concept. And it's not just like urban artists, let's say now it's like Taylor Swift versus Drake. And let's say these artists were actually open to it, but you've created a moment that you can't, like once the moment passes, yeah, you can see the rebroadcast, but who cares? You want to see it live, right? It's like a touchdown being scored. If we can do that, well, TV makes sense to me.
Yeah, and you also have to broaden the term of what TV is. TV is YouTube TV.
Yes.
TV is Netflix.
Absolutely.
TV is another streaming service. TV can be a multitude of things today. It's not just a cable channel or a broadcast network.
Right. But also further that TV is not just America. That's why emerging markets is so important, right? So you look at everybody's trying to get into Africa. Every major streaming service has some initiative to launch in Africa, to expand their reach in India. That alone is 2 billion people. And if we can make sure that middle class that's going to consume streaming and that's going to be okay paying a subscription fee and all this kind of shit can grow, that's how our industry grows, right? They know that we can't do much more in North America. We just can't.
Right.
But if we get to the markets that's growing at an incredible rate, now there's like tremendous growth potential. And so it's the reason why when we develop a show, for the most part, we're always thinking Netflix first. Like, would Netflix love this? And if, because they have a global footprint. So
I was going to say, your goal is to get something on Netflix, for example. What I'm seeing now with TV shows and Netflix is, yes, Netflix is now going into the live space, which is appointment viewing, because everyone knows you can stream it after the fact, but to actually witness and see something live, there's nothing like it. They're also releasing series where normally a few years ago they would release a whole season
binge.
or 2-3 seasons in one go. Now it's appointment viewing where they're releasing a new season on a Thursday at 9:00, a new episode. Everyone's tuning into that episode because of the water cooler moment and because of social media that happens right afterwards. So appointment viewing is really
Yeah,
coming
and
back
I wouldn't say
in a
well
way.
well I would challenge that, right? I wouldn't say it's appointment viewing. I think it is pulses. It's building up the pulse. So let's say for example, if without that series that you want to see the whole thing of, you're watching Netflix every now and then. You're going to tune in on a Saturday night if you're not doing anything, maybe Friday night, and you're going to watch a bunch of shows. But during the week you're working, you might not even do anything. But if I'm Netflix and I could say, here is reasons why you should watch me during the week. Now I'm
But they're
creating pulses,
guaranteed
right? So I'm bringing people back and forth, back and
the
forth, back and
audience.
forth. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
they need, right?
Well, the other part of it too, you need to witness live moments live because of social media
Yes.
too. Because if you want to
Good
be
point.
part of that
Good
conversation,
point.
you need to be actually viewing it as it's happening.
Good point. It is a
Yeah.
great point.
And I know what you mean from a business point of view to get the viewers in, but from a fan and a viewer, I like having an appointment
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
my schedule
But it
as
also
well.
goes back to what Perry said, right? Like, because now you are in the know as well, right? Like,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. I think sports has proven that there is no replacement for sports on just a mass platform. But like moments, celebrity moments is redefining that. Did you see what this reality star did to her co-star or whatever, right? Like that all matters too. But you're right. I think it's an ecosystem of how it's viewed now. So it's no longer like, hey, I'm on TV. I have to be on TV, on social media with a big conversation happening, on podcasts, who cares enough to talk about what just happened, right? Like I need to activate more now for it to even count, you know?
And I think that's the reason that the VMAs are on CBS this year, is because they can reach a bigger
Audience.
audience with a live show that it felt like the VMAs became sort of an also ran show where, I didn't catch it Sunday night. I'll watch a part of it on YouTube. I'll see some of it on Monday, blah, blah, blah. But I think by putting it onto a network like that, to give it sort of the same level as the Grammys, where you feel like you have to watch the Grammys live
Yeah.
because everyone's going to be talking about, the Benson Boone moment, being on a broadcast network, even though it's an old school network, is still, you're going to be able to stream it on Paramount Plus at the same time if you've got that app, but you're asking your audience to be part of the conversation as it's happening.
And it's also, it has to be available for you to be able to watch it, right? So if most of the young people that care about certain types of acts that MTV is going to feature are cord cutters and they're just on their phones, or, they might not even have a cable system to access MTV. So why not put it in a big open market square where everybody can see it? And then I'll also, to your
exactly.
point, I'll also funnel it to all the other places, right? The idea is reach, is audience reach. And so
I wonder if I haven't dug too much into it, and obviously by the time this airs, the VMAs would have been and gone. Platforms like Paramount Plus, which is a subscription, I'm sure they're going to be doing some ancillary programming that is just for Paramount Plus that wouldn't be on the pre-show or the red
you would
carpet.
think,
So
you would think,
I
but
would,
I know that
yeah. And Van's back, so he's doing
Is Van
more
back?
Van is producing this year's
producing.
No
show.
way.
Yeah.
Well, it's an
Yeah,
interesting year because the company is sold to Skydance, and so who
yeah,
knows
yeah,
what?
yeah.
I've heard rumors that some of the digital stuff might get folded up into something else, and obviously they're going to go through that process of restructuring. But it's an interesting year, so it'll be watching how everything unfolds is going to be interesting.
We'll have you back in a few weeks to tell it.
I'll be more than happy to, because I'm literally
Yeah.
like I'm paying attention to all the rumors. I'm paying attention. I'm speaking to some of my old friends that are still there, trying to understand what that process is like. Right? It's no longer. And
Well, we can watch the show, and because we've been on the other side, or you're still on that side, you can watch it, and you know how certain things come
yeah,
together
facts.
and what it takes to put those things
Yeah,
together. Like if you see this performance is brought to you by Pepsi, it isn't just a logo that a viewer's like they have a new drink, but
yeah, for real.
you can really see how that comes to life.
What parallels do you see between the way MTV built artists and brands back then and how you're doing it today?
That's a great question. I think it's an easy one to answer because the people that ran both companies are from the same era. Right? When you look at 300 and, people like Kevin Liles and Salim and Raina, who are the co-presidents of the company, before they got bought by Warner Music, they had a very similar approach to the music. They're all music people, so they love it. They love music. They love the idea of it. They understand the power of the artist. And so that was the approach. It was very artist first. They probably have a certain amount of artists that you have to fight for because they're hot now. So you got to try to like go after those artists, see if you can do partnership deals with them or sign them or whatever. But I would say the majority of the roster was always developing artists, right? So it was no accident that they got Migos, they got Young Thug, they have Gunna, Mary J. Blige saw them and came over there to do her reintroduction and all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a philosophy in how they build artists. Kevin was a music guy. All the A&Rs are music guys, right? Like, so it's that old school thinking that we describe about MTV where people cared about the craft, cared about the artist, understood the importance of it. That exists, and that's how 300, I think, parallels MTV.
And Kevin just has a reputation in the business as being somebody who cares about artists and wants to, yes, everyone wants to make a buck, but he's not in it for like, I just want to sign an artist, get the most I can out of them and dispose of them. It's like he wants to build careers, I believe.
Yeah. And that's a business model now. Like, believe it or not, back in the day, that was a given. Right now, it's like it's like a unique business model, right? And it's like you have to do it that way based on how the music business has changed. It's not just about how much my music is selling. It's about this brand that I'm creating, this world that I'm creating. How can this world be exploited financially? How many revenue streams can I create from it? Touring, merch, right? Can I do TV? Can I do books, right? Can I launch an educational series, right? Like all these things are now intertwined. And so in order for you to do that, you can't do that with a flash in the pan artist. That's hard to do, right? So you have to like start from, growing careers.
Yeah.
Well, we have covered, I think, so much in this podcast.
Thank you, guys. I hope your listeners care.
I feel like we could go on, but I know we have to cut it short. Well, not short, with an hour, 7 minutes of gold. But we really appreciate
you guys, man,
coming on. So great catching up. And I know we'll do some one-on-ones afterwards.
Absolutely. And guys, I appreciate you guys doing this. I think of course it's fun, right, for the old school cats that lived that era to hear these stories. But I think it's also, this becomes an educational thing, because I think the new generation of music industry, entertainment industry folks that's coming up need to understand context of how this all came to be. So you guys are doing incredible work, man. Like, keep doing it.
And how relevant it still is today, as we've really pointed out.
And as Tuma said, we're keeping a history of that time alive by having these conversations.
Thank you. And of course, subscribe, like, follow, share, comment. We'll be back soon next week.
Thank you for listening. And thank you, Nolan, for joining us.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate y'all. All right, one love.
Take care.
Right. Thank you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.